Hi, welcome to HowtoRPG. It's Monster Day. Yes, we are doing more stuff around the 2025 Monster Manual or the 2014 Monster Manual, and the ANKHEG is on the cards. We were serving that up for dinner for today. And I have been reviewing a lot of the different versions of this monster for various versions of the game. And I've kind of come to a conclusion. So I think I'm pretty sure I know how to deal with this. I'm going to put up a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll. I would suggest grabbing some food, some drink, getting comfortable, and I'm going to go through and we'll deal with the ANKHEG. I have been avoiding it because there were some... the ANKHEG created problems, so I avoided it. But not avoiding it today. Let's get it done. Hi, welcome to HowtoRPG. My name is Fred Weller and I talk about tabletop role-playing games. Today I'm talking about Dungeons & Dragons 2025, 5e, 5.5, 2014, that animal, the modern version of D&D or something in between, whatever the heck it is. And we're looking at the ANKHEG. We're going to look at fixing the stat block for the 2025 ANKHEG. Now, we can't do anything about the lore because they removed a lot of the lore, but we can at least look at the maths and the way it's built to see if it's going to work the way we need it to work, or will it not work the way we need it to work. We also have, I've brought along a version of the 2014 ANKHEG, which is very, very similar. There's not a lot that's different. In fact, you might be thinking, why would I even bother buying the book if it's just a different piece of artwork and I get less lore? I can understand that. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with today. So what I normally do before I start, I have a Google document that I've been working on, is I ask the question, how would you change the ANKHEG? So you can put your feedback forward, and then I go through the process of checking the maths against a table that I have and the table they made for 2014, which is not necessarily the table they're working to now, but also we'll work it against the power of what we expect a player character in 2025 to be able to do. Although we are looking back at 2014, we're probably looking more at 2025 or 2024, whatever the heck it is I want to call it. Just call it 6C and be done with it. Anyway, so what changes to the ANKHEG stat block would you make? Okay. Hello, Fred Huber. Fred Huber is the patron and moderator. Thanks for being here, buddy. Would you make? So let's hit this button here. And I need to get this over to my document. It's just make sure my brain is working properly. Yeah, okay. So there's a little bit of a problem with this this stat block. And the problem is challenge rating and armor class, but also expectation as to what it will do. That is our first port of call we need to just sort of discuss. So this is what we have. This is my little document. So I've transferred over everything from the 2025 version of the ANKHEG. Then I have highlighted areas where I see there are problems, okay? And there might be even highlights where something I think needs to be added. So let's go through and just check everything. Now the first thing we need to discuss is, I'm not worried about the hit points. We can change hit points. Hit points are just a timer, okay? So we can adjust that. That's all right, not a problem. Armor class. It is supposed to be a very armored creature. More armored than normal. So 14 is what they have listed. And you'll notice 2025 has 14 as the armor class, and the 2014 version. Both versions have armor class 14. Heck, Shadow Dark has armor class 14. I looked at other versions of D&D and it's not going to really help us because they are slightly different game systems and they work on different concepts, so it's not quite the same sort of animal, right? So what we've got to do is we've got to decide, is the armor class that we have of 14 so vital to the monster that we must retain it? Okay? And if that is the case and we must retain it, is the is the challenge rating of 2 adequate? Because if we look at a table here that I've made up, which is also based off the 2014 Dungeon Master Guide, because you won't find anything in the 2024 Dungeon Master Guide, because it doesn't know how to make monsters, apparently. They didn't put anything in there. You'll notice that Armor Class 14 is for Challenge Rating 4. But Challenge Rating 4 then suggests a whole lot of other things, like we're looking at probably increasing its attack bonus, and the damage that it does is probably probably the same, in the same bracket. We wouldn't have to make too many changes. Number of attacks, the DC that it would have, the difficulty class it might have for a save would be essentially the same. So the only thing we would be changing would really be the hit points, since the armor class would stay the same, the proficiency bonus would stay the same, the attack bonus would be different, the amount of damage it does would be at the bottom end of the range rather than the top end. And so there's a couple of things here that kind of would maybe work out like this. Maybe this is where it needs to sit. So let's have a look and see what challenge rating 2 looks like. If we say challenge rating 2, the expected armor class is 13. Proficiency bonus is 2. Okay. So maximum hit points, 86 to 100. Now, if you have a look at what it currently has, it's nowhere near that for challenge rating 2. So even under that, even under the sort of the guidelines they give, 86, we're still under that, at the top end of it. So it's light on that for a challenge rating 2 monster. Then if we start looking at things like, what is it? What was the other thing I was looking at? Not the attack bonus. It's the attack bonus. Yes, the attack bonus. Let's look at the attack bonus. Attack bonus is 5. Okay. Challenge rating 2, 5. Okay. How much damage does it do? So challenge rating 2 should get 2 attacks. 2 attacks. You'll notice this thing does not get 2 attacks. You either get to spray your acid or you bite. There's nothing else. Okay. So it gets 1 attack. How much on average is this attack doing? Well, apparently if you were going to use the bite, that's 10 plus 3. That's 13 points of damage. 13 points of damage for challenge rating 2. Challenge rating 2, where are we? So it should be doing between 7 and 10. So it's quite a lot higher. Quite a lot higher. And that's not even counting the fact that it needs to be 2 attacks, not 1 attack. Right? For challenge rating 2. Trust me, this all works out because I've broken down this and I've had a look at some stuff. This will work. So there's some problems with the number of attacks, the amount of damage it's doing on average. Its DC being a 13, I believe that the DC currently is a 13 for the escape, so that's not an issue. So that seems to be pretty much in line. But then if we start having a look at something like the acid spray, how much damage is the acid spray doing? So you're doing a DC saving throw each creature in a 30-foot range, failure, so half damage, so fail. So you take 14 points of damage if you fail the saving throw. 14 points for challenge rating 2. Well, it's quite a lot higher. It's starting to feel like this is much more in line with something that's sitting in challenge rating 4, if you ask me. We just need to make some adjustments to it. I feel like there are more numbers that are more in line with challenge rating 4 than challenge rating 2. And that the easy fix is to essentially change it from a challenge rating 2 monster to a challenge rating 4 monster, which is probably where it needs to be. Ultimately, this is where my argument was going. If you were wondering, what the hell are you up to, Fred? This is what I'm trying to say. So I think ultimately what we want to do is change the challenge rating, not change the numbers too much, because we won't have to do that. In fact, that will be almost unnecessary to do so. There's a lot less to adjust. So I'm kind of curious how chat feels about this. But for me, when I was looking at it and looking at sort of how it places in terms of what it's doing in terms of damage, You know, I mean, even the spray. Remember, the spray is 14 points of damage. It could hit multiple, each creature in a 30-foot long, 5-foot wide line. Well, that might be 2 targets, so that would be fine. But that, you don't guarantee that it will be 2 targets. It could be 3. Hell, if it's down a corridor, it could be all 5 or 4 party members all get sprayed by this thing. So now it's doing a lot more than just, you know, the average damage expected from that monster. Like, it's going to be a significant amount more. Like, it's going to be a lot more. Way too much more. And this is one of the things that I've found. I've run the ANKHEG a few times. I found the ANKHEG hits harder for its challenge rating than it probably needs to. And it's because of the way that the damage has been set up. Because you'll see that the damage output for this thing, I mean, they increased the damage a little bit, but essentially the bite was the same. It doesn't have enough tax. But just for the fact that, like, it's still doing probably just a little bit too much damage per attack for its challenge rating of 2. So I really, like I said, challenge rating 4 is probably where we need to go. Just shift that. Will that change your adventures? Ultimately, it was always going to anyway, because they've made this thing a lot stronger than it was before. So this is a very strong challenge rating 2 monster, but then also weak in other areas in terms of action economy. More likely to surprise by popping out of the ground, yes. Alternately, an ant lion style trap cone. I think a cone is not the answer. Now, I'll explain to you why. I like to think of ANKHEG as an oversized ant lion. Okay, I like making creatures more dangerous. Well, yes, I understand that, and the monster does need to be more dangerous, but it needs to be more dangerous for a challenge rating 4 monster, in my opinion, rather than a challenge rating 2 monster. Now, I think the ANKHEG is based off the green ant, in my opinion. I think the green ant is where the inspiration for this comes from. Now, it's an Australian ant, as far as I know. It's a bit of a pest. It's quite a handful, and in large numbers they do a lot of damage, and they're very uncomfortable. Like, you know, you won't die from it, but you'll be in pain for a while. So here's my understanding. It spits out acid, and that acid is not like a jet, like a stream of. It's like spitting. Imagine you had acid as your spit. When you spit, you're probably going to be able to hit whatever range you've got sorted up. Like, you know, depending on how much force you can throw your spit out, you can hit a particular range. But you're only going to hit one individual. You're not going to, like, it's not like you're turning on the hose. And the green ant is like that too. So I think we don't need to have a jet or a spray or a cone or a line. We just need to spit and you hit a target. And you're probably going to spit at the closest target, right? Because that would be the nummy food thing. Because the acid is supposed to break them down so that you can eat them. That's the whole point. So that's what I'm going to do with the ant, or ANKHEG, because it's basically, it's a green ant, if you ask me. It's a green ant. Okay, so first thing, we're going to leave the armor class alone. It can stay where it is. That's fine. And I'm not American. And then we're going to go along here. I have a problem with the initiative, but we'll deal with that in a second. Challenge rating needs to change. And proficiency is probably going to be the same. Is that? Yeah, something like that. Okay, I think that's in line. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Highlight. These are the changes that I am going to make. Am I showing you this thing? Good. All right, just checking, people. Sometimes my brain is hot. My brain is hot. Okay, so this is challenge rating 4. So we've got that. Proficiency bonus is correct. We just need to change the amount of XP we get for it, because that is not correct. We would be changing that to so that's 1,100. 1,100. 1,100. Okay, cool. All right. Next, its dexterity modifier is its initiative. And unfortunately, if you've got a challenge rating 4 monster, I can guarantee you that most of your players have been going before you, and supposedly for a monster that's supposed to be able to surprise you, it is not going to be going first. So I think the smart thing here is to do what the modern 2025 monster manual's been doing, which is a good change. Like, you know, I'm not going to say everything's good, great, but adding proficiency bonuses to initiative for monsters or giving them expertise is a smart idea. It's a really smart idea. I would recommend at least proficiency, but we could go with expertise and give it a +4. That means it is supposed to be an ambush monster. It should be able to get the drop on the player characters. Level 4 characters are going to be facing this. Let's go here. Let's make it a 4. That means we've got a really good chance of hopefully getting the drop on them because it's supposed to be able to do that. It's how it's built. Okay, now its speed. It's got here 30 feet and then burrowing speed of 10 feet. And I think that hasn't changed in the stat blocks at all. The problem is with the burrowing speeds, if we start looking at the ANKHEG burrowing through solid rock at half its burrowing speed and leaves a 10-foot diameter tunnel in its wake, it's nice to know, okay, we know it can burrow through stone or rock, but now it's only burrowing, what, 5 foot? 5 foot, half its burrowing speed, because it's only got 10 foot. So it on its turn, it's only going to go 5 foot through the rock. I'm going to come back to this one, but so let's deal with the hit points. Let's deal with that problem. So our hit points should be hitting about 116 to 130 for a challenge rating 4 monster now. And of course, we're not there. I mean, we never were for challenge rating 2 anyway. So let us up the ante a little bit. This is a large creature, so it's a D10. So we can get in our calculator here. And I didn't do the maths for this in advance. Sorry, people. So we need to add quite a bit. Do we need to add double? I wouldn't say double, but I would say we need to maybe about another half. So let's go with 9. Let's go with 9 times 10. Okay, that will give us 90. So if we're going with a con modifier and a +2 con modifier for challenge rating 2 monsters, fine. So 90, I'm going to be adding whatever. So the 9 times 2 equals 18, so add the 90. We get 108. It's probably not quite enough. We probably need to get just a little bit more out of it. So 9 wasn't enough. Maybe we can go with 11. I think 11's pretty close, so let's go with 11. And 11 times 2 is 22. Should be. So let's go here. 11 times 2 is 22. So, and then we're basically adding the 11 times 10. We were looking at the top end, not the average. Okay, I'm more interested in the top end. 11 times 10. So that, add the 22. And we get 132. So 132 is probably just a teeny weeny bit higher. So we go drop it down by 1 and we should be where we need to be. So it was actually a 10 that we needed. 10 to 20. And that should come out at 120, shouldn't it? So 10 times 10 is 100. Add your 20. And we get 120. So that is our hit points. And that is right smack in the pickle barrel. That's what we wanted. Perfect. That's awesome. So now we just need to turn out the average. So top end, 120. Average, we'll determine that in a second. So the average of 10 is 5.5. So 5.5 multiplied by 10. And we get 55. Okay, so that's our average. And then we're going to add the 20. And we get 75. That's our average. 75. So you're going to use a number between 120 and 75 for your hit points. You decide based on your group. If you've got a new group, they're not very experienced, not very good at the game, then you'll use 75. If they're really experienced, really good at playing the game, use 120. Okay? Right. So that's that bit done. Yeah, I think that's right. And I can't get it to line up quite. It just feels like it's out. Okay, so now here's the next problem we need to discuss. And I didn't highlight it because obviously I didn't think about it at the time when I was doing this, and sometimes I miss stuff. Our primary ability score. Most characters who are level 4 are going to have an 18. And this monster is only got a 17. Now, it would be fine to have a +3 or a 17 if you're challenge rating 2. But because you're challenge rating 4, and you're probably facing characters who have 18s at this point, you're really way behind the curve. So we've got to push this up to an 18, which makes this a 14. And then there's a couple of things we need to do along the way to make this work. And that is, this monster originally has no skills. There's no skills here. I don't have a problem about things like, condition immunities. I don't think if there's any condition immunities I would worry too much about for this creature. Frankly, I think condition immunities wouldn't be a thing. And there could be an argument made that it probably should have acid damage as an immunity because it's spraying acid, right? If it's spraying acid, why would it be affected by its own acid? That would be quite stupid, correct? So we can add that in, but we need to give it some skills because it's not going to hold up to the player characters. If it's going to surprise them, it needs to have perception, it needs to have stealth, and it's a grappling monster as well. So it probably should also, I should include here athletics. We should be giving it athletics as well, which means it's going to be much better at grappling than normal, right? So we add our proficiency bonus of +2 to our grapple, our strength. So it's going to be a +6 for its grappling because we use athletics for that primarily. We're not going to be using acrobatics because that's not its strength. And then its perception, you'll notice that its wisdom is a +1 because it's got a 13. Okay. Can I just say that it seems so pointless, this table, to include 3 lines saying stat, ability score, and then ability modifier, and then ability saving throw. For all 6 of them, you're taking up 3 lines where before it took up 2 lines, right? And you had your ability score and your ability modifier. And if there were if the saving throws weren't different, they weren't included. Look at this. The saving throws are identical to the ability modifier. Why are we even putting that in? Is it because nobody understood that your ability saving, your ability score modifier was basically your saving throw? Is this part of why this actually takes up more space? Because this monster doesn't even need to have this extra line here. But anyway, and I'm not doing that. If you might notice, I'm not doing that at all. If we needed to differentiate that, we could do that. And I hate the way it reads. Okay, so damage. Damage immune. T. And we are going to add in acid. That's the only one that I think would be appropriate. If it's going to spit acid, it needs to be doing something with it, right? Now, our perception, our proficiency bonus is a +2, even with a challenge rating 4 monster, so it's still +2. That's fine. So we're going to add that to our wisdom modifier, which is 3. That's perception's now a +3. Now that means it's just proficient and not an expert in it, and I'm fine with that. It does have other things like dark vision and tremor sense that sort of help alleviate its ability to notice things. You could give it expertise in this. Like, I don't think that would be a big issue. Like, so I think too often monsters don't get skills and they need to have them. Hell, let's just do it anyway. It's a +3. Is it really a big issue? No, let's just do that. So we go 2 proficiencies, and that will come out as a 5. Proficient expertise, and we're going to give it proficiency and expertise in the stealth. Okay, it is now an ambush monster. It should be able to do its job properly now, because it's got the maths there to do it. Right. Next, dark vision, 60 feet. Originally was dark vision, 60 feet. It's got eyeballs. It's got other senses, obviously, but you know, it's an underground creature. It's going to be relying on its tremor sense much more than anything else. I am fine with tremor sense to 60 feet and dark vision to 60 feet. The only problem that I can foresee here is the players all have dark vision. So this is rather frustrating. So this is the only reason why I would change the dark vision to 120 feet. But then again, you think about it, is it ever going to be above ground? It's all below ground, right? It's really not an issue. Are they even going to be able to notice that it's coming? Dark vision, no, it doesn't need this, does it? We can actually leave that at 60 feet. Let's go tremor sense to 120 though. I think we'll do that. Okay, passive perception. Well, perception score is now proficient and expertise, right? So we're going to have to go to a 15. And that is now our passive perception. It's a little bit stronger. Okay, we'll come back to the tunneler thing because I think there's an issue here. Right now, I already said before that the ANKHEG, even at challenge rating 2, needed to have 2 attacks. And at challenge rating 4, it needs to have 2 attacks. So we're going to give it multi-attack. And I want to give you enough versatility as a game master or dungeon master that your ANKHEG will get the job done. Like it needs to be able to do what it needs to do and get the job done. And I don't feel like it will get the job done in its current form. Now I put down here 2 melee attacks, but I think what we do is we change the way acid spray works, and we call it acid spit, because really that's what it's doing. And we get rid of this recharge nonsense, because that's just another thing you have to track and roll for. And instead of it saying 2 melee attacks, we just say 2 attacks. So they could be bite, they could be 2 acid spits. You could spit acid twice at range. Or you could bite them twice. Or you could spit acid and then bite them, if that would be the best combination based on your situation. 2 attacks. Nice and simple. How's that? Okay. Now that we've done that, we need to change some of our attack bonuses. Now, I just want to check to make sure that this is the same. Yes, it is. This is the new version. This is the older version of the bite. And I think we can rewrite this a little bit. But let's get the numbers done first. So, if it's challenge rating 4, we need to be doing a +6. And based on our proficiency bonus and our strength modifier now, that's essentially what we're going to get, right? So it's going to be a 6. Okay, let's make that a 6. That's fine. Done that. Next. Okay, so bite, melee attack roll, +6 with advantage if the target is grappled by the ANKHEG. Is that necessary? Do we need to stipulate that you have advantage if you're grappled by the ANKHEG already? Because what we really want to do is the bite should be grappling them already. I guess the idea is if you've already bitten them and grappled them with your ANKHEG and you continue to bite on them, then you want to have advantage. I think that is possibly why that is included there. Let's just check, does the new grappled condition state that you have advantage? I don't know that it does. It might. How can I find this easily and fast? may not be so easy and fast, eh? Rules, classes, backgrounds. Maybe if I go back, no, we'll go here, and then sources. Here we go. So Player's Handbook, 2024. Find the conditions. They've got to be down the. God, are they going to be easy to find in this thing? Oh, here we go. Conditions, and then grapple. Grapple, grapple, grapple. Where are you? Well, that's interesting. Conditions, conditions. Here we go. Grappled. How does grappled work? While you have the grappled condition, you experience the following effects. Your speed is 0 and can't increase. Okay. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. The grappler can drag or carry you when it moves, but every foot of movement costs. Okay. So that's that definition. Do they still have restrained as a thing, or has it been removed? Here we go. We've got restrained. So what does restrained say? Your speed is 0 and can't increase. Okay. Attack rolls against you have advantage. All right. So basically, if you are restrained, and this is, think about our monster, it's grabbed you, and apparently if it's grabbed you, it's going to get advantage on you, and they've written that in. And your attack rolls have disadvantage. So you have disadvantage because you're restrained by this creature. You have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So if you look at the mechanics of even 2014, and this is where I'm leading, and 2025, the condition grappled is the wrong condition for our ANKHEG, because really what we want to do is eliminate as much wordy shit as we possibly can. And if we just say restrained instead of grappled, you're done. We can just say that you are grappled and restrained, and it covered all our bases. We can eliminate one part of that paragraph bracketed section. Let's just do that. Okay, so if the target is a large or small creature, it is grappled and restrained. Grappled and restrained, and so we'll put big R for restrained. Okay. And then up here, advantage if the target is grappled by the ANKHEG. Well, that's not necessary anymore, because when it grapples, it restrains you. That's how it works. How would you apply this? You apply it this way. Let me just see. Hard to hit, reach. I think that's correct. Have we got it? Yeah. Okay. So now it's just down to how much damage are we doing. So are you starting to see where I'm going with this? Like, there are just certain things. Now, I know there's a whole bunch of people who think that a monster in 2025 should not be able to make an attack roll, do damage, and then have a secondary effect like grappling or restraining come into play without having to make a saving throw. And I would say to you, bollocks. And do you know why? Because in 2025, there are weapon masteries. Most classes that are played by player characters, most characters do not require you to attack and make a saving throw to succeed in doing something. You either make an attack roll, you make a saving throw, or an ability check. So pick one and decide which one is the most appropriate, and that's the one you go with. And that's fine, okay? So the monsters are doing the same thing. Now, weapon masteries. How many weapon masteries in 2024 that they have created, those god-awful things, require a secondary dice roll? Bugger all. I think there's one. So we're doing this. This is how it's going to be. This is how I'm going to line it up. So that means that our escape from the grapple is 8. Plus our proficiency, which is 2, that makes it 10, and we're adding a plus 4 because of this, so that means DC should be 14, right? I'm pretty sure it said 14 on my table. So let's have a look at our 14. 4 challenge rating. Yes, that's 14 for challenge rating 4. There we go. So we're going to move that right over to there. So let's just get rid of this. It makes it a little bit harder. Do you throw this monster at level 1 characters? Hell no. Shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Next. Are we doing enough damage? Probably not, because we should be adding another damage. We should be adding 4, not 3 now. That makes that at 11 at least, I'm pretty sure. But I'll check my maths in a second. The acids damage, I don't think we need to change. Now, why is this? If you look at the challenge rating 4, the amount of damage we should do per attack, and we're doing 2 attacks, not 1, is between 13 and 17 points of damage. This bite is going to do 14 points of damage. It's at the lower end. Pardon me. But that's fine. That should be all right. We should be perfectly fine with that one. So let's get this and do that. And clean up this here. So that there is now going to work. It is all right to do 2 lots of 14 points of damage, because it should really be doing, 28 points of damage in a turn. Like that's how this monster should operate. Honestly, I don't think that it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's really, really simple to understand. Anyway, so is this nice and clean now? Acid damage. If the target is larger or smaller, the creature is grappled and restrained. Okay. Now, let's go to the acid spit, because the acid spit is a problem. Or the acid spray. So it's a dexterity saving throw. There you go. It's not an attack roll. They've made it a dexterity saving throw. In this case, you'll notice it was dexterity saving throw in 2025, and what do you know? It's still in 2014. So obviously they picked a dice mechanic. That's the one you use. Now the DC 12 is not going to be any good. It needs to be a decent one. We need to be hitting a DC 14. It needs to be something decent. Otherwise, and not each creature. One creature within 30 feet. That's it. We can now control the amount of damage that a monster like this can do, because it can only ever hit twice, either with the bite or the acid spray, rather than it having the potential for a game master to have a situation occur where they could be hitting the entire sodding party and hitting them for quite a lot of damage, which is, in this case, 14. Now, 14 points of damage is on par with the bite. So it's now just a choice of, do I need something that has range? Go with the acid spit. Or do I use the bite, because I want to grapple and restrain? And the trade-off is between grabbing and restraining is I get to do acid damage, and it's very unlikely the player characters are going to be able to deal with acid damage. They might have resistance to other things, but maybe not acid damage. So, fail, 14 points of damage. Success, half damage. Nice and simple. I like the way they've written it. This is the new way of writing up the stat block. And I'm good with this. This is fine. Do I need to say anything else here? I think that's all. Now we know. Sorry, I almost forgot the tunneler. So let's go back to the tunneler. So I've given you plenty of options. You can use your bite twice, or your acid spit twice, or a bite, acid spit, and then a bite. So you would spit at them first, move up, bite them, and grapple them if you wanted to. So there's a lot. This monster could be quite tough even for level 4 characters, and it should be. Now the tunneler. The problem with the tunneler thing is, I get why they've put it in. It didn't exist before, like in 2014. It didn't exist. It wasn't there. Like, they didn't have that. Okay. My problem is, why would you even bother going through solid rock if all you can move is 5 feet, because your burrowing, your digging speed is 10 feet? It would be pointless. I guess it almost comes up as being a narrative thing. And they've given you the tunnel is awake so that the players can go down to the tunnel and chase after the ANKHEG, which will be trying to escape through rock. It's not going to work, right? But it can't escape at all because it's better just to be running along the ground, right? It can't dig fast enough. So what is the normal structure for this monster in terms of tunneling and digging in older versions of the game? I want to look at that. That is where I want to look right now. So I'm going to do that. So I've got here HowtoDandD. For those of you who don't know, HowtoDandD is a version of D&D essentially. Call it Old School Essentials or Renaissance or Revival or whatever the heck you like it. How does that work? Well, this is how it says. It says here its movement is near, which is 30 feet basically, or up to 30 feet. And it burrows 30 feet. So it goes as fast underground as it does along the ground. So that's just to simplify it. But that's interesting. I would be up for that. That I actually might work out all right. Going through rock would be a problem. But now let's have a look at AD&D First Ed Edition. The first edition, let's see what it has to say about how fast this little sucker digs. So, the ANKHEG's favourite method of attacking is lying 5 to 10 feet underneath the ground until its antennae detects likely victims passing overhead. Then it burrows out directly underneath the prey and grabs it. Okay, which of course now it's going to be restrained. Does it say how fast it digs in here? No, it says a whole bunch of other stuff, but it doesn't give us any information around that. But everything else, I think, is there. Basically, I think its movement is its movement. So let's put that aside. Let's go to the Monstrous Manual for Dungeons & Dragons 2E. What does it say in here about our ANKHEG? Because this is where they were starting to get to grips with how to do the monster manuals. If you ask me, it's probably one of the better monster manuals that exist in any version of the game, including 2025, and actually very much around 2025. Okay, so it has here movement is 12. So if we consider its movement is 12, and then it's going to burrow 6. This is AD&D. This is interesting. Okay, so what is a human? Because I can look up in this monster manual and I can find humans. And it'll give me a stat block for humans and how they work. Would you believe it? You can't really do that in modern D&D apparently. But you can in older D&D versions because they thought about this stuff. Now, can I find a stat block for a human or is it just lore? Here we go. Humans. How fast do humans move? Probably going to say nothing, right? I'll look through here. I could swear I've looked through before and haven't been able to figure it out. No, I don't think it has it here. Okay, so humans, we don't know. Well, okay, so I feel like a goblin is probably about as fast as a human. Well, how fast do goblins move? Give me goblin. Gobby, 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 goblin. What's goblin? That's a gnome. That's a gnome. Goblin, here we go. Goblins, tell me how much. Goblins move 6. There's 6. Interesting. I feel like 6 is probably equivalent to the human, right? I feel like it is. I feel like if it moves 6, it probably means humans move 6. Hobgoblins move 9. And then what do orcs move? Let's find an orc, because I can look up orcs in this monster manual as well. You can't do that in the new one. Orcs, ogres, another ogre, half ogres. Yeah, it's the good old days when we can have a half something. And then they have 9. Okay, so that's interesting. And then there's a ogre, which is 9. So let's say 9 is our norm for a human. Our ANKHEG used to move 12, so it was a little bit faster above ground, which means I think what this essentially says is that this should be 40 feet above ground and 20 feet below ground. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a look at Dungeons & Dragons 4E as well to see if I am on the right track or not. So this is the Monster Manual number 2. The 4E Monster Manuals are the worst shit under the sun. I know some people would argue that the AD&D First Edition is the worst Monster Manual because it's the smallest and so forth. But I think ultimately there's probably more useful information in the AD&D First Edition Monster Manual, even though it's smaller, than there is in the Monster Manuals for... And they've got 3 of them, 1, 2, and 3 for 4E. These are truly shit. But we'll have a look and see what they did. Oh, look. We've got plenty of stuff on stat blocks. So its speed above ground is 8, which is equivalent to essentially 40 feet. 6 would be 30 feet. And its tunneling is 4, which is essentially equivalent to 20 feet. So that is what we're going to go with. I think that is the way to go. I think this is our new numbers. It's a bit faster above ground, a bit slower below ground. But now if we're going through rock, it can burrow through solid rock at half its burrowing speed and leaves a 10-foot diameter tunnel in its wake. So that means it's going to be moving 10 feet, not 20 feet if it goes through rock. Still not a huge advantage. You probably don't want to be going through rock if you can help it. Stay away from rock, okay? That is the way to avoid their nastiness. So I think that is our stat block in a nutshell. I think that solves most of the problems that you might have had with this monster, and it will actually do what it's supposed to do. It will surprise the player characters. It will come up from underneath. It will do that effectively, and it has all the tools at its disposal to make a sufficient mess of them if they're level 4. If they're level 3, it's going to probably kill them. If they're level 1 or 2, they're probably just get them a coffin now, okay? But if they're level 4 or up, it should be a decent fight. That would be what I would do with the ANKHEG. So I'm going to go over to chat because I always like to check out the chat before I move on from these things. Let's have a look. Hello, Wally. How are you doing? The new stat blocks are one of my least favourite features of the new Monster Manual. Well, Wally, how can... Yes, indeed, just takes up additional space. Can I just say, Wally, what's wrong with you, Wally? Buddy, nobody gives a shit about lore. All they want is the art and the monster stat block. You're just not with it. You're just not with it. I can say this to Wally because me and Wally are making a monster manual and a magic item book, and heck, I'm in the process of trying to finish off the check for the Shadow Dark classes and ancestries that we've been working on. So, yeah. All right, so let's have a look at the final end result. I say the claws are what grapples. Yeah, exactly. They are the grappling part. They restrain you. The mandibles... Hey, Wally, I'm not with it. I'm less with it than you are, as you know. So we can put bite and claw. Bite or claw. Bite or claw. Okay? So Fred Huber made the point, oh, what about my claws? Because I got claws that I can grab them with. Fine. Bite, claw, I don't care. Call it whatever you like. I've included it. Beware of the dog. Yeah. Where is my beware of the dog sign? Anyway, let's end this poll here because I think I've rambled on. I'm going to show you the last little bit of it before I disappear. Do you think the ANKHEG stat block for Dungeons & Dragons 2025 and 5e needs fixing? Yes, 50%. Just watching, 30%. Undecided, 20%. No, 0. Out of 10 votes. Yeah, okay. All right. It's interesting. So, yeah, let's have a look at the stat block. So what I've done is I have the ANKHEG, instead of being challenge rating 2, it's now challenge rating 4. We've left the armor class at 14. Sweet, fine with that. We've given it more hit points because it needed it. If it's challenge rating 2, it needed more, and if it's challenge rating 4, it definitely needed more. So we've changed its speed. Its above ground speed is quite fast, and below ground is faster again. Okay, so 40 feet above ground, 20 feet when it's going to dig a hole. Okay, proficiency bonus is +2. We've given it a decent initiative. We've given it expertise, not just proficiency, but expertise, so it can actually go first. Maybe, if we're lucky, which may not happen either, but we'll see. We've given it skills, athletics, so it can do its grappling. Yeah, we've given it proficiency, and also stop you from escaping. That will help a lot. Proficiency in that, but we've also given it perception. We've given it perception is proficiency and expertise, and then stealth, we've given it proficiency and expertise. It's good at hiding and ambushing you. It's supposed to be. It's going to spit acid, so we've given it damage immunity to acid, and its dark vision can stay at 60 feet, but its tremor sense out to 120 feet. All the player characters have dark vision, and some of them even have 120 feet worth of dark vision, which is just crazy. Passive perception now pumps up to 15. No languages, because it doesn't talk. And we didn't change the tunnel effect for 2025. It's just there. This might be a problem if they don't release the 2025 monster manual as part of an SRD. That could be a problem. I wonder if they will. I suspect there might be a problem there. We'll see. Multi-attack. Didn't have multi-attack. It needs to make 2 attacks, this thing. Whether it's challenge rating 2 or challenge rating 4, it needed to make 2 attacks. It's a better attack bonus, so it's gone up to a +6. Its damage is only slightly different. I've only increased the slashing by, 1 point, so it's gone from 10 to 11. Its acid damage is the same, and instead of just grappling you, it's now restraining as well, so that we don't have to have that extra line of nonsense there that essentially said that that's what it was essentially doing. It was grappling and restraining, so just include it. And the escape DC has gone up because it's a higher challenge rating monster. Needed to have it. Its acid spit is not an acid spray because we're basing it off the green ant, which I think is where it came from. The DC for the saving throw is a 14. One creature within 30 feet. Within 30 feet. Why are we going with long? 30 foot, 30 foot, 30 feet. God. There we go. Oh, too many T's. Fail that saving throw, you take 14 points average. Otherwise, it's half. Simple monster to run. It's actually super easy. Should do what you need it to do, and should have all the bells and whistles that you were hoping for. And you got versatility about how you're going to do this. And I think that's really important for a monster. If you don't have enough tools and you're too restrained by the stat block, you just wind up having to homebrew stuff. So why do that to yourself? Yeah. Anyway. Now, for those of you who are wondering, I'm going to put this up onto my Patreon. So if you want to go and grab it, it is the new month. So I think every month when I do this, I put one of those up there for free Patreon members. So I think the ANKHEG will wind up being a free patron member, but anything else for the rest of the month will be those who are paid Patreon members. Okay, so that's where it'll go at the end of the week when I get a chance. Probably on my weekend, which is probably not your weekend, but yeah, it'll go up there. I'll put it there. Okay. For those of you who are wondering what the heck is Fred doing with all of this, you're just going to put one stat block on a document up on your Patreon, and that is it. No, eventually we take all those stat blocks. I go and see Wally and AJ Pickett, and we put it all together, and we chuck it into a document that you can access, hopefully in a book. But that's a long way off. That's the plan, for those of you who are wondering. And I get to break down and show you how to make a 2025 monster, since they don't explain how to do that for you currently, since Wizards of the Coast wants you to buy their monster book, not make your own. So now you should have a fairly good idea of what you're doing, I would imagine. Ah, dear. God, I love doing this shit. Anyway, hey, thank you for watching and listening. Thanks to all of my patrons who support me on Patreon, particularly the ones who pay. I really do appreciate it. It does keep the lights on. This gets expensive after a while. Yeah, so I really do appreciate it. So those of you who took part in the poll, thank you for taking part in that poll. That's really helpful and interesting. It does suggest to me that there was a problem. I always knew there was a problem with the monster, and I think that it definitely shows. I want to say a big, huge thank you to Fred Huber and Wally DM for showing up in chat and commenting. Thank you. I appreciate you doing so. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.